Morning, it's about time for us to take a quick look at what's happening on the covers of the newspapers this morning. Today, of course, is Monday, July 10th, 2023. Let's start with the Punch. It says here, ministerial appointment. National Assembly awaits nominees as Tinubu sends list to DSS, EFCC, others. Head of Service reshuffles secretaries ahead of minister's arrival. Orders on Tuesday resumption. Permanent Secretary writes Gbajabiamila Akume, security chiefs, others on redeployments. Right at the top there, it says cost of living. More Nigerians may join Japa train as hardship worsens. Subsidy removal, rising inflation threaten livelihoods. 9 million pushed into poverty. I wanted to touch a little bit on that because the cost of living actually really does alarm the average person. Even the little more than average person is showing some alarm. Of course, Mazino is right here on the couch with me.
Oh, finally, yes.
I apologize. I was just really engrossed by that particular headline.
I can imagine.
The Japa train does seem to be getting longer.
Well, getting longer. It was long before. Right now, it's even longer. Even very average people are telling you that they're finding their ways outside of Nigeria with everything that's happening. FX, subsidy removal, especially the subsidy removal. I was seeing a report only just last night on television about how even fuel petrol attendants are concerned at the rate at which Nigerians are no longer buying fuel because of its high costs. There's about 28% drop in the purchase of PMS right now, to show you that we're just like, being very conservative and people thinking, what are the alternatives? And the biggest alternative right now is to actually leave the country. We don't know when this is going to end, hopefully before the end of the month or next or so and so. There are other headlines here which will touch on what I'm about to say and the fact that Nigeria might experience a food crisis in the next couple of months. But let's continue with the headlines from inside the Punch newspaper. There was one I wanted to touch on, very unfortunate instance from yesterday. 18 Benin Republic bound partygoers, driver, motor boy die in Lagos crash. This is along the Lagos-Badagry Expressway, and I've been in that part of Lagos recently. There's plenty of road constructions going on. So what it means is the dual carriage is now just one way. So going and coming, you're using the same patch of road. And especially when it's rainy, it can be very slippery. And there's so much movement because the overhead pedestrian bridges are not yet constructed. So in this case, however, it was a case of the driver finding out that there's a truck ahead of him while he was trying to overtake another one and running head on into that one.
Goodness me.
And it was a very bad situation, as we can tell. Many people lost their lives there. Very
sad, extremely sad. And I do believe there has to be something that we can do to at least reduce these incredible statistics of road traffic accidents in Lagos especially. It just feels like the statistics are getting higher and higher every single year. Let's see what we have. We have the Daily Times newspaper as well. It does say here, resurgence of killings nationwide tops NAS agenda for this week. Security chiefs face tough screening, and some ministerial nominees fail routine clearance. It also says here, there is a photo story. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Okay, I'm trying to look at the...
Oh, don't worry, we can move on to the next one.
It's a bit blurry at this point. But what I can see here is we know military personnel involved in illegal oil bunkering, according to the Niger Delta Group, backs Dakubo. It says here, why foreign airlines dread operating within Nigeria? Specifically, a Daily Times investigation there. There is a lot of investigative reporting going on now into different areas. And, of course, now... foreign airlines have often, maybe paused operations in the past with the hope that, maybe they can also balance out. Because I do believe trying to get people to pay in Naira has become a challenge because of the issue of FX. So even if they had sold tickets maybe 9 months before...
Yeah, everything changes by the time it's your flight time.
By the time it's flight time. And, of course, they have running costs. They have, obviously, jet fuel. They've
also got monies in the Nigerian coffers that they have not yet been able to take back. So
Take back
all of
to
that
their countries.
compounds the issues with foreign airlines. It's not easy doing business in Nigeria,
Yeah.
especially at this time. Regarding the service chiefs, security chiefs, and the resurgence of killings in Nigeria, this is an assignment that they have to, at this point, take, what do you call it, at first hand. This is something that really needs to be tackled. So, and that's kind of like their scorecard at this point. For it to start coming back now, especially after the elections, I don't know if it's to be expected, but that would be the scorecard that we would judge them by, it would seem. But let's move on to our next daily, the Vanguard newspaper. You have a couple of headlines on there, don't you?
Yes, the Vanguard here has this major headline: governments of ex-presidents must not, or rather must account for the $5 billion Abacha loot. Federal High Court orders administrations of ex-presidents Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, Jonathan Buhari to account for the repatriated funds. Serap urges Tinubu to obey court order here. It also says, at the top left, it says curfew as 12 die in fresh attacks on Plateau communities. And PIA, administrative challenges, inadequate funding, others hinder implementation. And there's still quite a few other headlines there. But I was actually going to touch on the issue of the $5 billion Abacha loot.
Yes, that's not going anywhere. That's going to keep coming back. It makes you wonder exactly how much was looted from Nigeria and how much is still left out there, because we keep understanding that there's more being discovered here and there. It's not a question of how much anymore. It's a question of when it's repatriated, where does it go? And we can see that it's a hefty sum of money, and it could do a lot for the different, bits of challenges that Nigeria is going through. But I would personally like to see that happen. Yeah. A real accountability on where the funds are going eventually, because there's so much borrowing that that's going on. So maybe these will help, even if it's just by a fraction. Looking forward to that happening. There is something somewhere it could actually aid, and that's in education, quite frankly.
Extremely important.
Education could be.
And then of healthcare.
Healthcare as well.
Healthcare is
we'll talk about that on another headline. That's a different thing. So in education now, for education, the Vanguard's got this headline here: 200% hike in tuition fees leads to massive student dropouts, says the NAAT. This is a consideration we haven't thought about. If we have these situations currently with the hike in tuition and all of that, imagine the dearth in educated Nigerians we would have in the next, say, 10 years or 15 years, and what that's going to do to the economy itself, where people have to, I don't know, what, many will argue that it's not a bad thing because you'd resort to vocation instead
as
of
opposed to tuition.
Exactly,
I'm thinking about the fact that all over the world, higher education is expensive. Tertiary institutions are expensive, which is why a lot of these institutions abroad tend to turn to foreign students for major funding.
Have you ever wondered why Nigerians excel outside the country when they go out for higher education? It's because education is almost free here, and we can get it, So if you make education expensive, then you're lowering the what do you call it? Standards. Yeah. Of your populace generally, whether you like it or not. But just food for thought there.
But in the end, if our institutions were brought up to a certain standard, maybe we would be inviting a lot more foreign students into our country to, to learn here. And then, of course, the institutions wouldn't have to, in quotes, go on strike as many times as they do. It's a long thread of different issues there. Let's see what else we have here. Banks in earnings, windfall under high interest rate regime. Now that's a conversation for another day. Let's see which other papers we have here.
The Daily Trust.
The Daily Trust. Why local rice price continues to rise, according to millers and farmers. They blame corruption, inadequate supply, poor irrigation. They seek subsidy from federal government. And it says here, Tinubu must wade in. We supported 4.57 million farmers, according to CBN.
Big fear here regarding production of food. The fear is that with the hike in prices here and there, whether for agricultural produce or this and that, and especially transportation, that the subsidy that was removed from fuel might end up being the subsidy that is being put back into other segments of the economy. And it might just become a bit, at the end of the day, not come to fruition what we're looking to get. But
If fuel, if the subsidy, in my opinion, is taken away from fuel and put into farming, I think it's
We stand a better chance.
Yes, because in the end we can do without fuel. We actually can.
Oh, Titi, speak for yourself. I can't.
Can. No, so I feel like there are alternatives to that fossil fuel we're talking about. There is solar power. There is hydroelectric, of which we have loads of waterways you can look into. We have wind. We have so many other alternatives to power.
Now, these are not
But
infrastructure you
food-
can put in place in a year or two.
Understood.
Whether you like it or not, Dangote
food-
refinery is still being built even up until now after it's been commissioned.
Look,
That's a fact.
in my opinion, there are enough billionaires in Nigeria to put together some of these things. Let's have the Dangote conversation another time. But the issue now for me is putting this money into farming is definitely much more important. The issue of poor irrigation. We don't want to have issues like landslides. We don't want to have our farms flooded during the season when they're supposed to be reaping the harvest. We've heard so many stories of places like Otukpo in Benue State having trucks and trucks of oranges and farm produce just wasting right there because there's just not enough good transportation for these products to come to other parts of the country. So it really does need to be looked into because in the end, it's another export we could consider to be a lot more beneficial to the economy. But rice, of course, the staple food. Hopefully, the right people are listening and the right authorities can get involved.
I wanted to say to you and to everybody else, if you've never visited Otukpo, then you've never seen Nigeria at its finest when it comes to producing food.
Yeah.
Benue State in general,
Yeah.
the food basket of the nation, overwhelmingly rich. I will go back there again.
Yeah.
Just to see
Beautiful
those
place.
mangoes the size of plates.
Well, at this point, we have to say thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we'd love to hear your opinion on some of these headlines. Use our hashtag WakeUpNigeria on TVC. Let's see what you think. We'll be back after this.